Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Feeling Seen podcast, the podcast that talks about the movies that make us feel seen. And I have such an exciting co-host with me today. You might know her work. Maybe you were at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater when she was starting her career, under the tutelage era, I believe, of Amy Poehler, that UCB era.
That's right. OG.
That UC, yes, the beginning, the foundation of what kind of has brought us so much comedy that we know and love today. Maybe you remember her wonderful show Playing House on USA. Maybe you remember the show Best Friends Forever, which was also a Lennon Parham collaboration. Maybe you've seen her on any number of television episodes that she has been on over many years. Writer, comic, podcaster, actor, Jessica St. Clair. What else? I mean, there was Wamp It Up. There is currently Deep Dive. There's currently Deep Dive Pod.
Well,
what else do you need to know before we get started?
We're calling ourselves lately entertainer. I'm an entertainer. Yeah. Okay? I decided let's drop all the hyphenates and let's just say just like Sammy Davis Jr., I'm an entertainer. Okay?
Now, with the multi-hyphenate polymath entertainer sort of credentials of professionals these days, when did you realize the kickover was happening to where you were like, fuck it, I just got to say entertainer at this point?
Well, Danielle Schneider of Bitch Sesh, she made this proclamation in a pool in Miami. She was leaning back against the cement and said, you know what? From now on, I'm an entertainer. That's what I strive to do in life. And I said, that's great. So I'm going to get little desk plates, made up for all of us. And maybe I love the idea of a business card that just says entertainer. No way to contact me, just that. I've entertained you, and now that's it. You'll never see me again.
My end of the contractual obligation is fulfilled.
Yes.
Entertainer feels very old Hollywood. I finally recently watched Victor Victoria for the first time.
Oh,
and that is a movie of entertainers.
Yeah, I mean, I think normally you would think of an entertainer having musical, dancing, all of that. I don't have any of that. All I have is the ability to be myself. In every single role, in every single thing. I have no range. I said to Toni Collette once in that show, she was
United States of Terror, which you were in
States of Terror
at one point. Yeah,
I was in a couple episodes, and I did do a scene with her, and she immediately started to improv cry in it. And in between takes, I said, I'm not really what you'd call an actor. And she was like, what are you talking? She looked so upset. Just what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know necessarily how to quote unquote act. She's like, well then, okay. So yeah, I don't have any of the skills, but I just feel like I have the vibe of an entertainer.
I mean, I think that vibe really comes across. And so I think you're really succeeding in the mandate of the nameplate entertainer, Jessica St. Clair.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Friendship is something that comes up a lot on this podcast. That is the core sort of focus alignment of my life, or the friendships in it. We talk about friendship love stories on here a lot. I will draw the conversation to those as much as I can. It's sort of my default procedure. And you have really done an incredible thing, in my estimation, of making a career that revolves around friendship and making art with your friends and doing jobs with your friends, creating things with, tell me about making a career out of friendships. I need to know so I can take notes.
So you can do it. I have to tell you that friendship, and specifically having best girlfriends, has been the joy of my life since I was able to speak. I've always had a best friend who was I call them my emotional bodyguards. Often they had no choice in the matter. I pursued them.
Yeah, I call my friends my emotional hostages. So
100%. I pursued them like a jungle cat would, stalking them. They didn't even know it before it was too late.
Same.
I'd gotten them in the jugular. I just took a new one to lunch today, and I could see, and I felt almost sad for her. She doesn't even know what's happening right now.
I know that. I'm a couple months into a new acquisition, a new friend acquisition, and couldn't be more excited about it. Oh, it's full, just the full court press mode of so you're forever. And
they don't even know it yet.
Exactly.
I said to Lennon, within probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes of our first like meeting as like to see if we wanted to write together, I said, I think we're going to write together for the rest of our lives. I did. I said that out loud. I said, I think we're going to be best friends and like write. And she was like, can I have a minute to think about this? And then I told my husband, she was like, well, you'll never see her again. You'll never see her again. That's the craziest thing. But yeah, so I fall and I fall hard.
Yep.
And the shows that and the movies that I loved were always about female friendship. And I was just thinking like, oh, I should have said, well, Anne of Green Gables, of course, is my OG, but then there's obviously Beaches, and then Steady Diet of I Love Lucy and Laverne and Shirley and Kate and Allie. So those all really spoke to me. And, obviously, like, boyfriends came and went, but I also, when I have a best friend, they stay for life.
Yeah.
So you just get more. It's not like I lose. It's not, I'm like the opposite of Marie Kondoing my girl friendships.
Yeah.
I just continue to, I never purge.
No, it's a big platonic polyamory sect.
100%.
Yeah.
And we all like give each other different things. And it's kind of like, some days you're with that wife and some days you're with that wife. Sometimes you're in the mood for that flavor of wife.
Exactly.
And sometimes, and so, yeah. And then I always wanted to have that. And I never thought I would. I started out writing with Jason Mantzoukas, who is also like a girlfriend. And I knew him since college. And we wrote some really wonderful, like, fun male-female friendship stories. And then when we stopped writing together, I dreamed of that girl and I didn't think she existed. And then I found her in Lennon and she also was raised on all of those things and desperately wanted. So then we start writing together. And that was just like, I felt like my life's purpose was happening.
Yep.
To celebrate and give. And when we were writing for the first time, like there really wasn't that on television anymore.
Yeah.
So it was very much like girls fighting each other, the slut, the nerd, the, whatever, the bitchy girl. And they were all friends somehow, but it wasn't, it was about pitting women against each other. And so, and then I remember when our show came out, Girls came out. Now, of course, it was wildly more successful than ours, but that was, it was all that kind of thing was brewing. And then Broad City, which came out at UCB.
Yeah.
So I wrote those stories and that was so amazing. And it felt like it also connected us to all of these strangers who were best friends, and so that was a really beautiful thing too, which was we even more expanded out our Marvel verse to these people we didn't even know. And then I did the deep dive with June, and that obviously June is one of my best friends. And then when I moved to LA, I was able to deepen my friendships with all these girls I'd known at the UCB in New York, but never really had the time to get to know them because we were too busy, like living the New York dream. Yeah. You come to LA and everyone's crying in their cars in Target parking lots. And so like, it was just, I had a lot of time on my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yes, we've been so lucky to really get to work with each other, and even more so as we get older, because I think we really love the idea of being entrepreneurs on our own, And
it'll be the only hyphenate that will come in is entertainers, entrepreneurs.
Merch queen, merchandise. I'm really into merchandise these days, Well, production schedules, etc.
I will get this into our conversation, which is what I find is like we have a host of characters that you brought for us to discuss today.
Yes.
Where the ones that like, and like you mentioned Beaches, my God, my heart just stopped and you even just said it. But like we have like Lady Bird from Lady Bird. We have Sally.
Oh God, I forgot I mentioned
of
that
When
one.
Harry Met Sally. And we have Anne from Anne of Green Gables.
Yes.
And a point of interest that I had between When Harry Met Sally and Anne of Green Gables is both of these are stories that extend over these long periods of time. And I wanted to hear from you about the draw of these programs where you're watching women come of age, not necessarily just in like the context of a prom kind of thing or the context of like a romantic relationship, but the coming of age that honors the passage of time within the narrative. And I wanted to hear about that appeal for you.
Well, I love that angle. I never would have seen those threads, but I think we all use movies as like a template for what your life could be like. So for instance, Sally of When Harry Met Sally, I mean, she just was like the ultimate of what it would be like to be living in New York in your 30s. And like, would you be wearing hats and a vest with also a blazer on top of that vest? And, you know, so I think that, but I really love stories, and we would try to do this with Playing House, where like where you began the season was the opposite of where you ended. So our characters, I wanted to see them grow and change and learn, because I felt like that's what I loved about art, is that you could learn lessons from these people and hopefully not make exactly the same mistakes. So, and I feel like with Anne of Green Gables, it's like I found her when I was 10, possibly. Okay. And then I became obsessed with it. And of course I would watch it, and I was connecting to the Anne who was 12 and 13. But then I'm watching her get to be older and get married and all of that. And so I found different resonance every year that I would watch it. And that was my movie I would like, if I had a rough day at school. My parents would know, because I'd be in the TV room, and God bless the 80s. We loved a TV room.
We loved a TV. The TV room was downstairs. That was where I hung out.
Carpeted.
Yeah.
Couches that had like the imprint of like the asses of your generation.
Yeah, it was the old couch that had been moved to the downstairs TV room because the living room got the new couch.
That's right. So like they would know like, oh God, she's in the TV room, like under one of those Afghans that like, I don't even know who did that thing. And also like it didn't really keep any warmth in because there's so many holes porous in those things. Yeah, the porous Afghan on top of me. And I would just be like watching Anne of Green Gables because for some reason, like she comforted me in that she would make so many mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's all it really is like an episodic that they strung together of her like dyeing her hair the wrong color and, you know, not realizing she loved the man she was supposed to love, like all the things, falling off the ridgepole, you know, and breaking her ankle, breaking a slate over some kid's head.
How dare you!
Anne Shirley, what is the meaning of this?
It was my fault, sir. I was teasing her.
Stand at the blackboard for the rest of the day. I will not tolerate this kind of vindictive temperament in my class. Anne Shirley has a very bad temper. And she will learn to control it. You will write this 100 times before leaving today.
So with all of those mistakes she made, she still somehow, you know, came out on top. So that would be a real comfort to me. Also, the idea that she was so outspoken. It's so interesting because Japan, like, is an obsession with Anne of Green Gables.
Really? It's a big title there?
Huge.
Wow.
Huge.
I love
There's
that
an Anne of Green Gables.
Export.
Yeah, in I don't know if it's in the Disneyland or there's an Anne of Green Gables world you can visit. And when I actually dragged my parents to Prince Edward Island, not once but twice, to see where the actual house is of Green Gables and everything. And in the hotel we were in, it was us, a famous sumo wrestler had come.
Wow.
And then all of these Japanese tourists who were there to get married.
Oh.
In the style of Anne of Green Gables.
I was going to say, like get married like in an Anne of Green Gables way?
That's exactly right, which I'm really upset I didn't do. I mean, I did as close as I could, like get my husband to do. We got married in a place that looked like the set of M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. It was like the blacksmiths, like they brought all of the weird like things from the 1800s like to a place, and I think all of it was Dan was like, wait, this place is definitely haunted, and I'm like, congratulations, we're getting married.
And I think you guys had already been together for a long time at that point.
Yeah, he was like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, there's a real like magic in that. Like there's so much familiarity that it's like I am so not surprised that we have ended up in this situation together.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's it, is like when you're somebody who makes so many mistakes and, you know, speaks before they think and all of those things and leaps before they look, it's great to watch a character go through that, make the mistakes and then come out okay with the right the love of their life intact and the job they want to have and all of that. It was very comforting to me.
Well, I think that pulls through over into a movie like Lady Bird, where we have the wonderful, like much more late 2010s kind of situation, like the revival of like the women's friendship narrative with the like, to that point, like the love of Lady Bird's life is intact. Like she and Beanie found their way back to each other. Like the friendship core is in place to send her off to New York City. And that, that there's like a dramatic exit of a prom in that movie to come and have a sleepover with your best friend.
Oh God, I love that so much. And I also am very moved. Well, what Lady Bird really spoke to me was the mother-daughter relationship.
Oh, man. Wow.
Because within the first 30 seconds of that movie, I said to myself, she's going to throw herself out of that moving car. Because I have jumped out of multiple moving vehicles.
You're not even worth state tuition, Christine.
My name is Lady Bird.
Well, actually, it's not, and it's ridiculous.
Call me Lady Bird like Christine. You said you would.
You should just go to City College. With your work ethic, just go to City College and then to jail, and then back to City College, and then maybe you'd learn to pull yourself up and not expect everybody to do everything.
My mother and I love each other fiercely, but I was a tough cookie to parent and mother, and I had a temper, much like Anne and Sally, for that matter.
Oh yeah,
and I have had to exit vehicles and sometimes jump into what I didn't realize was a ditch off a country road, and just like wound up in a gully, So yeah, and so but I. And in what I've written, it's always been very important to Lennon and I that no matter what conflict goes on between these characters, like they love each other fiercely at the end of it. Yeah. And it's almost like the mistakes they make are because they love each other too much.
Yeah.
It's not like they're at each other's throats because they don't get each other. It's almost like they love too hard and have to realize that they need to kind of adjust to let each other be who they're going to be,
Well, I find that to be that for me is such a special kind of thing to see. Cause like with Playing House, it was these two women, like basically like Lennon's character is helping you raise your child, and you're raising this kid as two best friends. And then the story goes on into like it mirrors your own experience having been diagnosed with breast cancer and getting through that treatment, which is something that Lennon was with you for every step of the way. And I thought that there was something. I watched an interview that you guys did on Jimmy Kimmel talking about the season of the show. I think like when it came out, I think it was like active promotion. And there was like, it was the story of like how Lennon picked out my breast implants for my reconstructive surgery. And there was just like a tiny tick of a moment that I feel like not everybody's going to dial into it, but Jimmy is like, wait, why was she with you?
So then she locked eyes with me, right? She's like, all right, get over here. And I'm like, what? No, I'm not picking out your boob.
Why were you there in the first place?
Well, that was like the way I could contribute. When bad stuff happens, you got to just be there. Yes. You don't know what you're doing. You're like, who needs a basket of biscuits, you know? Or whatever. I don't know.
And I was like,
I know. And I was like, wait, what? Why wouldn't she be? Like, of course she was there.
And it just like, and exactly like, and that moment sort of like took over my whole mind in the interview, because I was like, the fact of that question is the underscoring of how we have such limited language around intimacy and what it means and who is invited into it and who it belongs to and how people can share it. Because so much of our fiction is dedicated to this very normative sense of like, it's a married couple against the world and they raise their child alone together. And you have your one person who you invest every secret in and your well-being is tied to them, instead of like chosen family community. And I'll say it every chance I get. I'm a pan-romantic gray asexual person, like dating and sex. That's never really.
I'm going to start saying that. I'm going to say that.
We're a big tent and we're looking for more public representatives. Yeah, so
absolutely
we invite you. So sex and dating has never been a part of my life, but like I have been in love so many times in my life from the friendships within it. And so to just like have you having this really normal in your life story to share, like normal yet extraordinary for something like Playing House, and then to be talking about it and have the very like heteronormative perspective injected in very polite questioning of just like, why was she with you? It's like, Why is the husband the only one in the room? Why is that true?
You have to have the best friend. You have to. And the greatest thing was that we could all do different things.
Yeah.
Because my husband and I were so just in shock. Yeah. We were in the moment, but Lennon could take the notes, and remind us back what we had been told.
And you guys have been, and your husband have been together, I believe, since you were about 20. So this is,
yes.
God, you're deep into it.
We've been together 26 years. 26 years.
26 years.
Yes. But he was so happy to have Lennon there. But it was funny because at first they thought that Lennon and I were a lesbian couple because my husband was trying to get home from New York.
Okay.
And I kept talking about our daughters. Yeah. Our daughters are just 1.5 years old. And and our health insurance.
Yeah.
And so they were like, this is the best lesbian couple we've ever met. They were like, these two, and I think we were getting the red carpet treatment because of it. And then Dan showed up the next day. They were like, who's this? And then it was like,
interloper?
Is this like a queen bee scenario where we all serve her? I don't know what this is, but then we were just like, we're rolling.
Yeah.
We're rolling 3 deep. We're all making decisions, together as a team. And I couldn't be more thankful. And then, of course, it wasn't just Lennon. It was my greater group that I was just talking about, the Marvelverse, the Bird Bones, the Lindsay Sloans, the Danielle Schneiders, the Casey Wilsons, the June Diane Raphaels, the Melissa Rausch. They were all there in chemo they never left my side. So, yeah, but that was almost like when people talk about, some people don't have that amount of support. And so I realized how lucky I was, every minute of the day. And I do realize it's not as common as you would think.
No.
That you'd almost have too many people trying to help you. But I would also say that it's very difficult, and it was even difficult for me to accept the help and to ask for it. So I encourage people all the time to that your girlfriends especially, they want to help you. Yeah. And I should say, not just my girlfriends. Josh Levine, my Uncle Josh, as the deep divers know him, of course he was there.
Of course,
he's number one. But yeah, you have to let them help you. And I do also think that's what those stories were about too. The Lady Bird and Anne of Green Gables is they help each other. Yeah. They take turns. Being the one in the hot seat.
I when my best friend was diagnosed at 31 with voracious breast cancer, she's in recovery. It's good now. But that was it was. I live in LA and she lives in San Francisco, and every 4 weeks we were back up for the chemos, and just you guys have this part on your plate, so I'm going to take care of all the other things that fall through, so you don't have to do those things.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny too, because you have and my college best friends, Kristen and Molly, they also served a very specific role in that, they're the friends that Kristen was the one who was flew out. And again, I wouldn't even say make your flight. They would just show up. At that point. That's the thing. You can't wait. I know this isn't a podcast about accepting help, but you really cannot wait for a yes. You just have to book the ticket.
Yep.
Book the ticket.
Yep.
And
I would just make the drive. Just make the drive.
Just because they'll say no. They'll say, oh, God, I never forget when I got the call that I had gotten, that I had it. Lennon, I was texting people I have cancer. It's crazy text to receive. And she was like, where are you? I'll meet you. And I said, no. I don't want you driving in rush hour.
Yeah.
In the rain. It was raining. And she was like, wait, what? But of course she showed up. And then I was so happy she was there. So anyway. But yeah, those are stories about girls showing up for each other.
Well, and I think too that I the aspect of there's a stubbornness about an Anne and about a Lady Bird and about and about Laurie Metcalf and about her mother, where they're and you were saying I've jumped out of that car because I was a pill when I was young. So when you were you connecting with the obstinance of these characters when you were younger too?
100%. And Marilla Cuthbert and Laurie Metcalf's character are very similar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In terms of their strength as well, because you don't come from nothing. You know what I mean? So Yeah, I am a tough cookie. I'm still a tough cookie. I was a tough cookie to my friends going through this sometimes, you know. It was very difficult. They had like a phone chain about like when I would be like in code red about like Googling at night.
Yeah.
You know, they had a whole thing. Like there was a whole system going on behind me that was trying to stop me from destroying myself. So yeah, you know, I think that I really like flawed women. We are not perfect. None of us are. I think the romantic comedy has sold us a bill of goods that, believe me, I eat it up with a spoon. But like, you can't have the one flaw that is clumsy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No, I mean flawed, like sometimes you're selfish and like you lose your temper and you hurt people that you love and those type of flaws.
Yeah.
Those are the flaws that I think we all connect to as women. There's a book too that Elise Lunan just wrote called The Seven Deadly Sins, but it's all about how women are taught to be good and perfect, and we have to suppress all of those nasty sins, you know, the selfishness and the anger and the sadness even.
Yeah.
And so I love the characters that let us see those part of ourselves.
It's time for a quick break. When we get back, we'll hear more about the work Jessica's done with her friends and the things that shaped her own storytelling. And then I will have one quick thing before I go. You know, we say support independent cinema a lot on this podcast, and we're going to acknowledge a little indie called Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Hey Max Fun listeners, this is Cameron Esposito. I'm a stand-up comic, actor, writer, best-selling author, and podcaster. I got a great show called Query where I interview LGBTQ plus luminaries across, a bunch of fields. People in entertainment, astronauts, musicians, rock stars. I am bringing the show to maximum fun. You can listen right now, and I am so happy to be on this network. We have new episodes out every Monday. You can listen at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's official. Max Fun has become a co-op.
We're now a worker-owned network of artist-owned shows supported directly by you.
Thanks to supporters and listeners like you, Max Fun will always be a place where employees have a say.
Thanks to you, shows can continue to partner with an independent, values-driven network.
Thanks to you, we're able to carry on our commitment to our shows and the community we've grown together.
Learn more about what becoming a co-op means for us and you at MaximumFun.org/co-op. That's MaximumFun.org/COOP.
Welcome back to Feeling Seen. This week, I'm talking with entertainer Jessica St. Clair. She co-created and co-starred in the show Playing House with Lennon Parham, and she's feeling seen by Anne of Green Gables, Lady Bird, and Sally from When Harry Met Sally. Let's jump back into that conversation. A big part of why I wanted to have these conversations with people in this podcast is the way that like art imprints upon us, and then the people that I talk to that go on to be creators themselves, how they then put into their work the sort of lessons that they've learned or things that they've gleaned along the way. And I was reading you talk about like coming through UCB, and I was listening to your Jesse Thorne interview on Bullseye, and talking about how there was a sort of initial, like, you know, in that grind of the 20s and it's the 90s, and it's like women were kind of competition. It was like, there's one spot for all of us, so like we better go after it. But then like through that, finding a part of this sorority that you would build to take with you over the years. And you said a bit about how you couldn't wait, like once you kind of met Lennon and once you realized like this collaborative hive could be there for you, and seeing a model in front of you of like Amy Poehler with Tina Fey and Maya Rudolph and Rachel Dratch. And you said that you were like, I can't wait to write stuff that makes me as a woman laugh. And so I wanted to hear about like your own experience being like, I connected with like the flawed characters, like the Anne and her stubbornness, and characters that would resemble like a Lady Bird and her just like intensely devoted but difficult mother. Did you feel like, was it writing from a place of feeling like there was an absence of that Or is it just like, no, I just want to do it for myself? Or was it like, no, I just don't feel like I have sufficient options to make me as a woman laugh at the things that I want to engage with?
There was a lot of fear that honestly that what Lennon and I found so funny would not translate.
Yeah, okay.
That I really worried. We worried that like the little things, because I think like even playing house, like there isn't the same setup punchline. Yeah. There isn't that ironic distance that was also going on in comedy at the time.
Yeah.
Like there is none of that. It's very like it's like Anne and Green Gables. It's like a comedic Anne and Green Gables. We're obsessed with each other. We love Tina Turner. We love Kenny Loggins. We throw bridal showers with hedgehog cupcakes. It's I think for women, it's all in the details, the little details, the fabric of their friendship, the inside jokes and the way they finish each other's sentences. That's what makes, I think, it feel real. That's why like Lennon and I record ourselves and the way we speak to each other. And then that becomes the transcript for our writing, is to capture how a best friend duo has their own language, like a secret language. So yeah, we really wanted to capture that, but we really worried because I think we were also like, oh, comedy needs to appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
And if you don't get the men, then you're not successful. If you don't get the straight men, then you won't be a quote unquote success. And it was so heartening to realize that there were all these other weirdos like us who also had these romantic friendships with women and saw themselves and had done. I mean, I still get DMs from people that are like, I met a girl at our pickleball tournament. Again, another insane thing we threw. Like, we're going deeper. My friends and I are going so much deeper into who we really are. Yes. And the deeper we go, the more engagement we have with our fans, because I think at the heart of most women, we are secret weirdos.
Yeah.
We walk around like normal people, but inside we are fucking strange.
Yeah.
And so there's such freedom in letting your freak flag fly.
I think that is, I'm 38 and I've been very lucky to enjoy each era of my life so very much, and it's wonderful. But getting older kind of fucking rules.
It rules.
It rules. Like I feel like if you're really embracing it, what you're actually doing every year you get older, if you're really embracing your life as it has gone before to factor it into who you become, you are just getting deeper into who you are, and that is awesome.
Yes, friend. Yes. That's why, like, my favorite movie is still the favorite movie I had when I was 12, because I feel like, and we always said with Playing House, I do not mean this to be a Playing House podcast, but we always said that these two characters became best friends when they were children, when they were like 6 years old. And that was before the world and society beats out of you who you really are.
Yeah.
So we know each other at our core.
It's your purest.
At our purest. And so then you've got adulthood, which has taken us away from who we really are. But when we get back together with our childhood best friend, we're able to bring that truest self out from each other again. And that's what kind of saves both of our lives, And that's why I think it is so important not just to have close female friendships, but also like those childhood friendships, like they hold a history of who you were before adult life told you needed to hide it away.
Yeah.
Under like an Ann Taylor loft suit, No.
Well, I think such a beautifully like shock to the system part of When Harry Met Sally is like you experience both their points of view, but when you are experiencing it through Billy Crystal's point of view, he is encountering someone who he doesn't know what to do with Sally. Like he doesn't have a roadmap for Sally. Sally is specific and strange, and she feels like what the manic pixie dream girl would be without the misogyny, like, because she's truly like, Sally's truly just doing it for Sally. She's not doing it so Zach Braff realizes that he can feel again in Garden State sort of situation. And so like to watch a Sally, like she feels like such a triumphant character because she is flawed and she is aware. And she's like, but I am so completely myself. I simply can't turn me off for the sake of you.
That's right. That's right. And at the end of the day, that's what he falls in love with. All of her quote unquote difficult things.
Yeah.
I love that you get cold when it's 71 degrees out. I love that it takes you an hour and a half to order a sandwich. I love that you get a little crinkle above your nose when you're looking at me like I'm nuts. I love that after I spend a day with you, I can still smell your perfume on my clothes. And I love that you are the last person I want to talk to before I go to sleep at night.
He loves that about her. And that's like I think that's what everybody wants, both from their girlfriends and from their romantic partner, which is to that, like, I'm going to show you all of the awful things about me, and I still want you to love me. Now, I would argue it's a lot harder to show it to your romantic partner than it is to your girlfriends. That's why sometimes your girlfriends know you a whole lot better because they've seen you totally flip out in the grossest of ways. I mean, gross. Like the ugly cry, you do reserve a lot of times just for your girlfriend. But yeah, I mean, I think all of those characters are loved in spite of who they are, because of who they are. But like, in the Ladybird friendship, it's like she's been a real shit to Beanie, and Beanie loves her anyway. And she knows that Beanie has her own, limitations, and they love each other anyway. And Diana and Anne, they have a hard time. Diana has to stay home, and she doesn't get to go to Queen's College, and she gets engaged to Roly Poly Fred Wright.
Yep.
And Anne is very judgmental of that.
I could never love anybody as much as I love you, Anne. Do you really love me? Of course I do. Nobody's ever loved me for as long as I can remember, except for Matthew and Marilla. Oh, you swear to be my secret bosom friend? But isn't it wicked to swear? We're in enough trouble already. Not when you're swearing a vow. I solemnly swear to remain faithful to my bosom friend Diana Barry for as long as the sun and the moon shall endure. Now you say it. I solemnly swear to remain faithful to my bosom friend, Anne Shirley, for as long as the sun and moon shall endure, and as long as my mother doesn't find out. Oh, she mustn't. I can't ever.
Best Friends Forever, our first show that Lennon and I wrote, was about what do you do when your best friend marries somebody or gets into a real relationship with somebody and you are jealous of them.
Yeah.
And maybe you wish they didn't exist at first.
In the distance between making Best Friends Forever and making Playing House and having them both work with Len and Parham and having them both revolve around like these intimate friendships, how did you find the terrain for women's friendship stories? Was that a different experience between making those two shows?
Yeah, I don't feel like we would have had the balls to do Playing House if it hadn't been for Best Friends Forever first. Because Playing House really felt like the stuff that we loved the most about Best Friends Forever distilled like a fine balsamic vinaigrette, vinegar, like a Modena, balsamic vinegar that's syrupy. But even so, in order to truly sell Playing House, we said to USA and to this guy, Jeff Wachtel, who was in charge, and he was our godfather, but we said we would rather shoot it and show you than a script, because we knew that the script wouldn't fully capture the reality of how much these two love each other. There aren't as many jokes on the page. Like, this isn't going to be like an episode of The Office. You're not going to, this isn't Family Guy. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And so he really trusted us and gave us a very small amount of money, and we shot the pilot. And that was, I really believe, the only reason it got picked up was because we showed that, and something about that reality came across.
Well, I think with the specificity of Lennon's delivery and like screen presence, I don't think you can words on a page are not going to communicate the total value that Lennon Parv is going to bring to an, like, you
100%.
gotta see her, you gotta beat, like, what she did by doing the smallest micro business in her Veep appearances, like,
oh god,
could have only been her.
Just a look.
Just that look and just going, oh, that's serious. I was like, why is this the best comedy?
Best. She's so good. It's crazy. And then she's also a great director. It's really fucking annoying. She really is. She's so in control. That's, I think, like, a line like, is that a hedgehog cupcake? I'm going to punch you in the face.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense unless you see us doing it. But I mean, honestly, like, all of those things are ripoffs. Mm-hmm. It's like an amalgamation of every Laverne and Shirley, every Anna Green Gables, like, all of my best girlfriends, they love those shows.
Yeah.
You know, my comedian friends, we're all, sometimes I'm like, is that an episode of Gilmore Girls, another one I love. But I'm like, is that, when I pitch something sometimes in a room, I'm like, did that happen on the Golden Girls? Like, I don't know, because it's baked into me.
Yeah.
It is me. You know, I am it.
I am it. I am all of these things.
I am all of these 80s movies and shows that I consumed at such a voracious way. And talk about screen time. Like, we could say all we want, but I was mainlining those shows and movies. And why, and June and I just talked about this, like, why were we allowed at like 12 years old to watch Beaches by ourselves
fucking
on HBO?
Shit, man.
Over and over again. Like, how many Saturday afternoons did I lose to Beaches just sobbing myself into a migraine? But nobody thought to check on me? Like, that's some pretty serious stuff.
I mean, I would put Beaches up there with some of the darkest cinema I have ever experienced. Nothing. That is one of those formative impact moments where there's me before I watched Beaches, before I experienced the loss of Barbara Hershey, and then there's me after.
And then you post. Exactly. Like, I hope if I can do anything is to shield my daughter from Beaches. Like, or maybe not. I don't know. But even they as a best friend team, it was interesting. They were still a product of the 80s.
Yes.
In that, like, they weren't as supportive of each other. There was a lot of jealousy in that best friendship that I feel like doesn't exist in most friendships.
They wouldn't necessarily be friendships.
100%. I almost feel like maybe a man came in and wrote that scene, that fight scene. You know what I mean? Because I just don't think women are like that with their friends. But even if you are jealous, and believe me, I have been jealous of my friends at certain times. Like, we have had tough moments, but I think ultimately when you're jealous of a friend, and again, Anne and Diana go through that, it's like, yes, you want what they have, but really you want what they have because to not be similar is so painful.
Yeah, that is such that blurring of your identities with one another is like, it's not necessarily healthy, but it's a feature, not a bug. It, like, the merging is kind of the point in some extents. Like, not knowing where one ends and the other begins is not something that's avoided. It's something that's kind of fostered.
It's exact, and it apparently, according to, there's this great book called "Are You Wearing That?"
Oh, okay.
Or "You're Wearing That." It's called ? And it's basically this linguist who studied women speaking to each other, but specifically mothers and daughters.
Oh, wow!
And they were talking about she records little girls, and they love to mirror each other. Like, if one says, I have contacts, the other one says, I have contacts too.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be the same. You have to be the same. And with boys, they one up each other. So, like, you know, I was able to make that point. I made that point yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that same is great. But then life does bring in these times where we are on different paths. You know, same with Lady Bird and Beanie. They're on different paths in terms of dating. Diana and Anne. Anne is on her own path in terms of her career. That was also, she's an outlier. I think that I really connected to, because
I was going to ask if the aspect of the outlier figure was something that really spoke to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I felt like, you know what? Victorian society is not that far from what it's like to grow up in suburban New Jersey. No, in suburban New Jersey, it's like everyone is the same. If you are a secret weirdo, you got to keep it hidden.
Yeah.
If you ask a lot of people I went to high school with that if I was funny, they would be like, no, what are you talking about? I mean, I had to hide that. I still found my best friend to this day is from high school, but that was a secret life of mine.
Yeah.
You know, there was one copy of Gilda Radner's stand-up special at the Met that I watched so many times it broke.
Wow.
I broke videos, one copy of that VHS. I was the only person who rented it. I watched it till it wore out. But yeah, the idea that like I wanted to be something different, that I had something different inside of me, that definitely connected to Anne of Green Gables for sure.
And I feel like Sally almost becomes like, she feels almost aspirational in that way, because I think the thing that sticks with me most about that movie now when I watch it is that it's a really, she chooses herself movie. Like Sally chooses herself over and over again until Billy Crystal can get his shit together enough to realize that she's been right in front of him all along, kind of thing.
He gets on the Sally train. She doesn't get on his train.
Exactly.
Please, let's know that she's looking hot as shit in a strapless blue little number, okay, little balloon dress, one of those weird gunny sack dresses. Okay, she's out on New Year's Eve. He's the one in the sweatsuit running to her, which I love.
Exactly.
But yeah, she's the reporter. She's living in that shabby chic apartment, living her, but not married.
No.
And I loved that and that was the dream of like moving to New York and having that. And I always had male friends. I always had boys who were my close friends. Jason Mantzoukas was one of those. And so I did love that kind of that back and forth between men and women. I loved that they captured. But it was obvious that like Nora Ephron and Rob Reiner were friends, because there's that love between them. But I also think like the fact that she and Carrie Fisher have their own storyline together. That scene with the two of them in Self-Help, there's somebody in Self-Help looking at you. I mean, that just...
Someone is staring at you in personal growth.
I know him. You'd like him. He's married.
Who is he?
Harry Burns. He's a political consultant.
He's cute.
You think he's cute?
How do you know he's married?
Because last time I saw him, he was getting married.
When was that?
6 years ago.
So he might not be married anymore.
That movie wouldn't be what it was without the best friends.
No, it wouldn't. Absolutely. No. They're the vital Greek chorus experience, contextualizing us the entire
100%.
time. I have to,
100%.
Really bummed. I have to like ask you a last question right now. But I guess the final thing I would want to close on would be, what is the weirdness that you have been most joyfully surprised to discover and be free to unleash about yourself in the process of you diving deeper into your own personality?
Well, something I'm loving about the deep dive is June and I are both very similar. We were raised very similar Irish Catholic households. Okay. Hers in Long Island. She had a lot more hairspray. She was allowed a lot more eyeliner than I was, which was zero.
Yeah.
But we are leaning in to frivolous things. Nails, pickleball, trips to Miami, like silly, stupid fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is like putting myself in uncomfortable, like having been, an Anne of Green Gables, certainly nerd city. She's working hard, work hard, not so much playing hard. So for me, what I'm leaning into is like, what if I just act stupid and do stupid, silly things and tablescaping. Yeah. Like I've said now the word tablescape to two men in the last 48 hours. I don't know why. And they're like, wait, what is that even that word? I'm like, I don't need to be a part of this male world.
Yeah.
I don't want to
I don't seek to be. I don't desire to be.
I don't seek to be a part of it. I could, much like California, could become its own country. There's something to be said for Wonder Woman, the island.
In my head, I was just thinking like your MCU is Themyscira, actually.
Themyscira those women are looking fresh. Yeah. They're keeping their core tight, and they're happy as goddamn clams. So, yeah, like that's it. It's like I'm going even more into being the weirdness of being a woman.
That's awesome.
And delighting in the silliness of it because it's in those little moments of joy. Tablescaping, getting weird nails, putting on a sequin dress you have no business in being in, that kind of stuff. It's in those things that we celebrate with each other. Yeah. We call it being a woman of significance. The women that I have loved in cinema are women of significance. And sometimes being a woman of significance means going to gay pride in Miami, drinking so much rosé, you don't remember most of it. I think I'm aging backwards.
Back to the purity of the 6-year-old self.
Silliness, silly fun. Let's have fun because the last couple of years were some tough stoof.
Jessica St. Clair, thank you so much for coming and spending an hour talking to me. I couldn't be happier about it. This has been the best.
Jordan, you are such a treat and a treasure. And I'm just so glad to have you in my life now. I mean, I'll pursue you, friend.
I am so emotionally available. If emotionally availability was the Olympics, I would be a fucking best in the world.
Me too. You text me, I'm texting you right back. You'll hear back within seconds.
That's me. Oh, this has been such a privilege. Thank you so much for your time, Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much again to Jessica St. Clair. What a little dream fulfilled that was. Since my Vulture days, I have wanted to have a long conversation with Jessica St. Clair, co-queen of Playing House, and I feel so satisfied. Thank you, Feeling Seen, yet again for making my personal dreams come true. Take a look at anything in Jessica's filmography, and you are bound to have a good time. And producer Marissa, in particular, hopes that you will watch her on the very underappreciated Avenue 5, so get it together. You can watch Playing House for free on the Roku channel and listen to The Deep Dive wherever you get your podcasts and whenever you want. So take advantage of that. And now, my one quick thing before I go. We say, as I noted up top, we say support independent cinema on this podcast. You can do that. You can support independent cinema right now by supporting my independent cinema. You can go rent Give Me an A. Hell, you can buy it on VOD on all reasonable platforms. Get out there and do that. I produced it. It's amazing. We're all very pissed off that women's rights to bodily autonomy, the health of any pregnant person is being jeopardized by anti-abortion legislation and activism. So support that indie cinema right now. But I just gotta say, at the dawn of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, I have come to be aware of a number of people, some of which I know, some of which I just know from the internet, who have only lately welcomed the Mission Impossible franchise into their lives. They have caught up on 20 plus years of Missions Impossible with Ethan Hunt and the gang, and they too have discovered the greatest American action product franchise set of films of the 21st century. The Fast saga is really up there, but much as I love the Fast films and family and living my life a quarter mile at a time, and amazingly queer villain Jason Momoa in the most recent Fast installment, somehow the Mission Impossible series has basically kept getting better. Like, it started on a great note with the first film, and it is somehow pretty much only gotten better all of the time for 20 plus years, 2 decades and more since that happened. Yeah, what a steady drumbeat of fucking incredible, bar-raising, awesome action that we have been treated to for so many years, by controversial figure but undisputed movie star, perhaps the last true male movie star, maybe? Tom Cruise. I am so excited for this. I'm so excited for everyone who is discovering this franchise anew. And, it goes to show that even tentpole cinema gets away from people sometimes. Treat yourself to the wonder of movies. Dear friend of mine, Disaster Girls co-host Amanda Smith, has only recently watched the Fast and Transformers franchises for the first time and found those caves of wonders. And support indie cinema, support indie cinema, support indie cinema. We will say it over and over again, but also treat yourself to the discovery of big, gigantic movies that you may have missed, because sometimes you just can't be ready for the ways that they will satisfy you, for those little buttons of joy they will push in your heart. And this is primo prime time where Bond, sorry Brits, where Bond may have been uneven in the 21st century. Listen, I'm a diehard Pierce Brosnan Bond girl, and the Craig era is formidable. But listen, those movies sometimes were fine. They always looked amazing, but sometimes they were fine. The Mission Impossible movies always look amazing and always are amazing. And even if you're kind of down on 2, that's still a goddamn John Woo movie. So go back and revisit it, and maybe with some new eyes. And guess what? MI3, also really good, and Philip Seymour Hoffman is the villain, and Kerry Russell is in it. So just go back in and realize that you can have a great time with that film, in fact. So yeah, forever indie cinema, but for now, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I will see you all at the movies to watch that epic 3-hour spectacle. And that is our show. You can follow us on Twitter at FeelingScenePod, or you can send us an email at feelingscene@maximumfun.org. If you want to follow me, I'm JorCrew on Twitter. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. The show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
directly
by you.